Jungkook's reputation at stake? Taehyung said a sentence that made the atmosphere freeze on the set. That sentence not only shocked the staff, but also shook the hearts of the army around the world. Is this a hidden form of protest? Why does Taehyung sound so disappointed? And the most surprising thing, what is HYBE really hiding about Jungkook's condition? Is this just a spontaneous joke? Or is it a form of emotional rebellion that has long been suppressed? In an unexpected moment, in front of the cameras, Taehyung, with a calm tone but saving the coals, uttered one sentence that immediately made the atmosphere on the set turn silent. A seemingly ordinary sentence until the army realized that it was not just an ordinary statement. It was a signal, a gesture of frustration, a small explosion from the mountain that had been about to explode due to invisible pressure. And this time, the center of everything is Jungkook. For many years, Jungkook was known as the Golden Magne, a hard worker who seems tireless, always smiling, and continues to give the best performance under the spotlight of the world. However, is there really no limit? Is it true that humans can continue to be pushed to the nadir just for the sake of expectation? Or, precisely here lies the destruction that has been covered up by those who are supposed to guard. The moment took place on the sidelines of the shooting of the latest project that was allegedly part of the promotion of the upcoming solo album. Jungkook, as always, attended with full professionalism. But this time, there's something different. His gaze was blank. His smile is not intact. His shoulders fell more than usual. And Taehyung, who has known him for more than half his life, is clearly aware of it. Do you think this is appropriate? Keep forcing her like this just because she never said no? The sentence came out just like that, in the middle of a light question and answer session. The crew had a good laugh, taking it as a joke among fellow members. But Taehyung's expression remained calm. Seriously. Too serious to be called a joke. Fixed camera recording. The staff couldn't stop him. The army who watched the video cut then immediately fell silent. Silence. Confused. Hit. What is the real meaning of Taehyung's sentence? Is he teasing someone? Or even a system? Is this a form of protest against HYBE? More importantly, has Jungkook's condition reached a dangerous point? Over the past few months, Jungkook has been involved in various projects without a break. Ranging from international collaborations, photo shoots, mini-concerts, to secret projects that are rumored to be very physically draining. Some fans have voiced concerns on social media, noting how Jungkook's eyes appear more and more blurred with each appearance, and how his body looks thinner and thinner. However, all of that was always answered by the agency with one classic statement: Jungkook is fine. But if that's okay, why did Taehyung, who is known for being very private with the group, end up voting, even in front of the camera? Is this just a momentary emotional outburst? Or is it a sign that something bigger is boiling behind the scenes? That sentence, though brief, opened the door to many questions that had not previously dared to be asked. Who really made Jungkook's schedule so hectic? Why do these projects seem to have no gap to break? And most painfully, does Jungkook himself have no right to say that he is tired? During one of the post-shoot sessions, an unnamed staffer whispered something that made this rumor even hotter. We can all see it. He's too exhausted. But no one dared to stop. Because it's not just about the project, it's about the business. Business. A word that seems to cut through all human sides. Because in the entertainment industry, a smile can be a commodity. Fatigue can be hidden by lighting. Tears can be exchanged for streaming numbers. But until when, Taehyung may have realized that if no one stops, if no one dares to speak up, then Jungkook will continue to be a machine. And he doesn't want to see his best friend collapse quietly, then all can only regret when it's too late. Do you want him to smile or stay alive? The second sentence that Taehyung also said after the filming session sounded even more piercing. This speech is not included in the official video, but leaked via audio that was successfully recorded by one of the staff. And when the audio went viral on the Army forum, one world seemed to fall silent. Not a few tried to argue, saying that Taehyung was just tired or emotional. But many people actually appreciate Taehyung's courage. He's not just a friend. He was a living witness of how hard Jungkook fought. And perhaps he is the only one who still dares to tell the truth in the midst of an increasingly silenced system. One of the most emotional moments occurred when Jungkook was known to read ARMY's comments that worried him. In the live broadcast, although he still smiled and tried to joke, his tears had fallen without him realizing it. It wipes quickly, but the ARMY knows. He's tired. He tried strong, but he needs a break. The question now is no longer whether HYB will answer all this with a sweet clarification. But are they really going to make a change? Will they start treating their artists as people, not products? And if it's true that Taehyung taunted HYB directly, will it have consequences for his position at the agency? Or is this precisely the turning point that is needed, where one must speak out for everything to change? Until this news was made, there has been no official statement from HYB regarding Taehyung's comments. But the public is already divided. Some defended the agency, saying that everything was in accordance with the contract and professionalism. But more standing with Taehyung and Jungkook, asking for transparency and humanity above all else. Jungkook has not yet given any statement, but his eyes have said enough. And Taehyung has done what few dare to do. Stand up for the truth, even if it means going against the grain. Now, what remains is a question that hangs over the minds of millions of ARMY. Will this be the beginning of a major change in the working system of K-pop artists? Or is it just the beginning of a long, unfinished conflict? And one more thing that is no less painful to think about. If it's not Taehyung who makes a voice, who else? The leaked audio recording was continually replayed by millions of ARMY. The phrase, "Do you want him to smile or stay alive?" It feels like an emotional whip slapping the heart of every listener. Not just because it came from Taehyung, but because there was a sincere tone in it, a bitter tone from someone who had watched too much on the sly. And shortly after the video and audio went viral, social media exploded. The hashtags #ProtectJungkook and #ThankYouTaehyung became trending in dozens of countries within minutes. ARMY discussion forums were flooded with concerned comments, analysis, and outpourings that expressed one thing in common. They were disappointed. But more than that, they feel guilty. Because all this time they have been enjoying Jungkook's work too much without realizing how expensive the price he paid behind his smile. "We don't want you to be perfect, Jungkook. We just want you to live." One of the most shared comments came from a Korean fan who claimed to have followed Jungkook since his pre-debut. He wrote about how he used to see Jungkook as a shy boy who has now grown into a global symbol. But in that symbolism, he also sees loss. Loss of humanity. Moments from the past are brought back. Footage of Jungkook vomiting on stage because he was too tired. He collapsed after the concert. Video when he claimed to only sleep 2 to 3 hours a week. All this is now seen with different eyes. It used to be considered a sacrifice. Now, systemic torture. And somehow, it all felt more real after Taehyung decided to voice what had not been said. Many fans asked, what made Taehyung have to say that? Has he tried to speak in private but has not been heard? Is this his last form of frustration? An insider from the agency's environment, who asked for his identity to be disguised, leaked information that made netizens even more shaken. Taehyung has asked for rescheduling several times, but they refused. They said Jungkook can. He's strong. He likes a challenge, but they don't see when he's alone in the locker room. Arms shaking, pale face. And Taehyung, he's there all the time. He saw everything. Does this mean that HYB really turned a blind eye to their artist's condition? Or maybe, do they believe that the members will survive without protest? Clearly, Taehyung's actions that day were not just spontaneous remarks. It was the result of anger, disappointment, and perhaps fear. The fear that one day, Jungkook would not be able to get out of bed due to unbearable fatigue. Interestingly, after the incident, Jungkook looked calmer. In a short broadcast he made a few days later, he thanked the ARMY and said, "Thank you for caring. I read everything." He didn't mention Taehyung's name. He did not mention the word tired. But his eyes, full of gestures that are even louder than any sentence. There is a painful silence, and despite all this, Taehyung remained silent. He gave no clarification. It does not argue. He simply posted a photo of the sunset with the caption, "When the sun is tired, it sinks," but no one scolded him. Is that code? Is that some kind of subtle allusion to an overly demanding system without giving it a break? The army certainly captured him as part of an unfinished story. You know, it's not just a moment of drama. This is a new chapter of a long narrative about an idol's struggle to be recognized not just as an artist, but as a human being. Some fans even created an official petition urging HYB to revise the W. While the world continued to pay attention, one after another old memories began to emerge. A flashback that feels like an old wound reopened. An old video has gone viral again, one showing Jungkook training late into the night, with his t-shirt soaked in sweat and gasping for breath. In the corner of the room, Taehyung sat holding a water bottle, looking anxiously at his magne. Even at their young age, this dynamic was already forming. Jungkook, who never knew when to stop, and Taehyung, who never stopped worrying about him. Now, in their adult years, that role is still the same. It's just that the load is much greater. Jungkook is no longer a 15-year-old training in a basement. He is now the global face, the international icon, the hope of the industry. But Taehyung knew, inside the body now adorned with praise and fancy labels, there was still a child who had not learned how to say enough. Jin's comments that emerged shortly after this controversy also added to the heat of the situation. In a radio show that happened to be broadcast live, Jin had said, "Sometimes the strongest among us are the ones who look the least sick." The sentence was perceived by many fans as a tacit support for Jungkook's condition and also a defense of Taehyung's courage. Jin, who is known as the wise brother in the group, also seems to be aware that something is not right. Jimin, who usually always calmed down the situation with his warm smile and silent hug, this time did not say anything directly. But he posted a black and white photo of hands clasping each other with the caption, "Some wounds don't need to be seen to be felt." A message that strikes and implies loyalty. He stood with them, even in silence. Meanwhile, international media began to raise this news as an important issue in the global entertainment industry. The New York Times, Billboard, and NME released articles questioning the system of hard work in the K-pop industry. One quote from Billboard even states, "If Jungkook, the world's most beloved idol, has to be forced to go beyond his limits just because he never complains, then this is no longer about hard work. It's about exploitation." The impact is getting wider. Mental health activists, industrial psychologists, and even former idols began to speak out. One of the former idols of the previous generation said in an interview, "What Taehyung did was a heroic act, but also tragic, because it shouldn't take anyone screaming to get the most basic right, rest." And in the silence of a public that began to think again, HYB still has not issued an official statement. But internal sources began to leak. A longtime employee who did not want to be named said, "There was an emergency meeting that night after Taehyung's video went viral. They panicked, but not out of concern for Jungkook's health, but rather for the impact on the company's image." The word spread like wildfire and caused more anger, because if this is so, then this is not just a managerial mistake. This is a betrayal of public trust. The BTS family itself, against the promise that has been held by the army, that they will always keep their idol, not only from haters but also from the system. The tension reached its peak when one of the production staff involved in Jungkook's latest project testified anonymously in an independent podcast broadcast. He revealed that some of the staff had actually suggested postponing the project, especially as Jungkook's physical condition began to decline dramatically. But the management said, "Too much money has come in. We can't stop now." The remark, although whispered in a low voice, sounded like a loud bang in the ears of the fans. This is the harsh reality that has been trying to cover up with stage lights and expensive camera lenses. That behind the glitter, a young boy was struggling to just breathe when the army finally realized that the system they had believed in all along might be the main cause of their idol's burnout. The hurt turned to anger. But not destructive anger. This is loving anger. Because when someone you care about is treated unfairly, you don't stand still. Social media timelines are full of exclamations. Not a boycott, but a warning. A call to open your eyes. To restore the essence of man in the world of entertainment. To say, we want Jungkook to be healthy. not just success. And in the storm of all this, Taehyung keeps